Hello, welcome to the Self Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 2 Contextual Dimensions of Democratic Decentralization, Political, Constitutional, and Administrative. And let us continue our topic Constitutional Dimensions. It has by hindsight been criticized as a precocious attempt on the part of a nascent democracy to capture in an incredibly small time fruits of development attained in the developed states through a protracted evolutionary process spanning years. Since then, such false promptings by the developed states to nascent nations were also shunned as an erroneous conception of development. This caused a paradigm shift in the development administration in that the blueprint approach, whereby the development packages were prepared and transferred by the developed states to the developing nations with the purpose of doctoring development therein exoriously was rejected in principle and replaced in time by the ecological approach, which advocated taking the environmental context comprising cultural, socio-economic variables particularly to the country which comprise the environmental setting of the public policy in the area. These factors determine the operational success or otherwise of any measure. Doctored solutions do not work since policies are at best generic in nature. Specific features reveal only in the process of application with reference to the context in which they are played and the requirements. Subsequently, grassroots democracy through a three-tier institutional setup at the local level as Gram Sabha at the village level, the Panchayat Samiti at block level and the Jilla Parishad at the district level was envisaged, stressing fundamentally people's participation in administration to articulate local needs and factor the same into the policy and correct the balance of power, which had titled unfairly towards the bureaucracy. In the post-CDP phase, the Janta government came to power and attempted a fresh initiative by constituting the Ashok Mehta Committee. The report articulated the need for constitutional status to the PRI for long-term viability. Therefore, the issue was lost in political vicissitudes in the period 1985 to 1992. The Congress government under late Prime Minister Mr. Rajiv Gandhi introduced draft legislation in the form of 64th and 65th constitutional amendment. The bill lapsed due to the stiff opposition in the Rajya Sabha. It was constructed as a pernicious attempt to subvert democracy on the part of local institutions in non-Congress ruled states. Thereafter, the Janta government came to power in December 1989 elections and introduced a fresh legislation which too lapsed because of dissolution of the Lok Sabha. Fresh elections in 1991 brought the Congress back to power under the leadership of P.V. Narasimha Rao. Subsequently, the 73rd and 74th Amendment Bill were introduced and passed in December 1992. Local institutions are now envisaged as three-tier development agencies. Significant innovations is the District Planning Committee, which would institutionalize development planning at the micro level. Requirement of area-based spatial planning, which had been expressed for some time, has been addressed. Requirement of integrated rural-urban planning has also been addressed via new institutional. The intent is clear in the Act. Local bodies are to be developed into agencies for socio-economic planning and not just passive instruments for plan implementation as had been till then. Now let us move to the next point, administrative argument. Decentralization is expected to tackle the colonial hangover of disjoint administration at the local level. Since administration during the British rule was heavily top-centric, local administration could not develop. Reliance was placed on ad hoc bodies for plan implementation, which proliferated in time to produce a chaotic state in the district. Establishment of local self-government is expected to facilitate rationalization of the administrative apparatus at the local level, since make many such agencies would be rendered irrelevant. Technical know-how and funds as per requirements should be provided to facilitate local planning and implementation of development programs. Presently, specialist expertise as also implementation of development policy is disaggregated. In that, rural development has a department orientation, implying that the staff functions within their own specialties without being organically and horizontally linked with related specialties for comprehensive efforts at the coordinated spatial development with required intersectoral linkages. For example, soil conservation, supply of credit, and minor irrigation work as isolated sections in the field when cross-disciplinary integration is required. Precisely, integration is more desired among personnel involved in related specialties. This would create the desired dispensation of area-wise, regional and sub-regional, district or lower level field units of development manned by multidisciplinary teams of experts and technical personnel under their control. Accordingly, some modifications would be desirable in financial administration as providing budget provisions not for the department as such but for an aerial unit which could be watershed as stated earlier or other administrative cum developmental unit with considerable delegation of autonomy to local staff had to sanction transfer of funds from one activity to another as per local requirements. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.